Okay, hopefully we have audio. Forgot to fix that on this one. Um, Welcome. I can see a few names out there, so welcome to you. Thanks for being here. Um, this is the Programming and Algorithms 2 class, CSCI 21. So if you're able to make the live stream, that's great. I appreciate it. It's fun for me to have people to interact with. I am Boyd Trollinger, so John Boyd Trollinger, which is why you see Trollinger J.O. in the college email, but I go by my middle name, Boyd. Um, sorry, and my voice is going to be roughed up for a week or two while I get it in shape. So sorry about that. I put honey in this tea, but it's not helping yet. Uh, so it'll just take some getting in shape. Hello, Ed. Nice to see you. Whose names can I see? Adisha, Block, Casino, Commander, and Robo. And those are the people I can see on the chat. But welcome to you if you're here. Thanks for being here. I do welcome you to send greetings and happy thoughts and, of course, questions on the chat. If ever, by the way, it seems like what I'm talking about isn't what you can see, or you can't hear me, please put a comment in chat if you're here on the live stream, because sometimes I just forget to switch views around. Most of the time I'm just in this main view with the browser in your class because all our tooling is in the browser, but occasionally I'll switch to an overhead camera so I can draw pictures of stuff at some point in the semester. Okay, so you know who I am. Thank you for being here. So this is CSCI 21. This class assumes, well, in fact, you're required to have Programming and Algorithms 1. I do not assume that you know C++ in this class, which is why we spend a few weeks at the front of the semester sort of quickly bringing you either up to speed in C++ or back up to speed if you've been away from it. And also you can get a sense of the way my coding style. Hello again, Robo. Nice to see you here. Long morning for you having to listen to my voice and possibly look at my face, so sorry about that. But maybe the switching content will keep it lively. Okay, so what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, the first few weeks. And the assumption that you haven't necessarily taken C++. So I believe, and I think you'll agree with me when you get a little, either you will agree with me now or you will agree with me after you accumulate a little bit more experience, that C-like languages, which is the letter C dash L-I-K-E, C-like languages, languages that are like the C programming language, are all pretty much the same. And it's very, very easy to learn your way around any of them. And I just don't believe in the idea that in school you sort of have to have one language pounded into you over and over and over again. Because you should see how different languages choose to express the different ideas that we handle in software, in programming, how we express ourselves as computer scientists. And I believe that you'll find that it's relatively easy. You ask the same kind of questions whenever you encounter a new language. How do I do I/O? How does it do arithmetic? Particularly, does it do integer division the way I think it would do it? How does it do looping and logic, decision making? What does it functions look like? Does it allow passing by value, passing by reference? If not all those things make sense to you, those are all things that we'll deal with this semester. I'm just pointing out to you that a new language is not a big deal, especially if you have had one C-like language, which would include JavaScript, Python, and Go, all of which we teach here at Butte College. And even the language that I use in the assembly class is a C-like language. They all have a lot of similarities, and it's relatively easy to move between them. So this semester in this class, we will focus on C++, which you'll probably find yourself using a lot in college because it has a lot of features that teachers enjoy. it makes you do a lot of things manually, or at least allows you to, which teachers like to teach. So there we go about C++. Okay, so what we're going to do is look at how the course is set up in Canvas. We'll look at the syllabus so that you understand how you earn your grade ultimately in this class. I'll have to take a short break to rest my voice. Then we will walk through the first week's module, and then at the end I will probably set up and do a couple of spoilers on the lab, just so you've seen someone do it and it doesn't feel completely unfamiliar to you. Hopefully that will help you sort of enter into the week's work with more confidence. Okay, so the way I set things up in Canvas, now I'm showing you the instructor view, so there's some extra links and stuff around. But one of the reasons I do this is because my Confer Zoom link won't work if I switch to this student view, which I find off-putting. So anyway, you're looking at the instructor view, and also if I see something that's wrong, I can quickly fix it this way. Okay, so this is the home page. I'm on the main page, and in theory, everything that you need is on this page. When you come to visit this class and are ready to do some work, you can get at everything right from this page. If you need to, for example, remind yourself when I do the live stream, or how to contact me separate from the live stream in terms of making an appointment to meet during an office hour, or how to message me in Canvas, that's all right here at the top of the home page. And I'll talk about the Confer Zoom details a little bit more in a second, but I do this live stream barring anything weird happening. It's roughly 10 to 11:30. Sometimes they won't go as long as an hour and a half. Occasionally it could be true that I go a little bit longer based on any questions I get from you during the live stream. I will put breaks in there just so we all have a chance to stretch our legs and get more water and that kind of stuff. But that's roughly about what I find it takes me to do the online lecture for this class, is about an hour and a half. So that's every week on Monday from 10 to 11:30. In terms of finding me outside of, or meeting with me outside of the live stream, I use a scheduling tool called Confer Zoom, which we'll look at here in a few moments, where I set aside blocks of time that you can schedule one-on-one time with me by Zoom. I also do a drop-in office hour every week on Thursday afternoon. It's on Zoom, but basically it's open to everybody, and you can come in and you can meet people in your class or in other classes, and you can ask me questions about class or about work, or we can just get to know each other a little bit. That's a time where you can come and go freely, and you don't have to book an appointment for it. And then finally, if all of that doesn't work or isn't working for you, you can message me in Canvas inbox, and we can work out something between ourselves where we can communicate and make sure that I'm addressing your needs as best that I can. Okay, so that's all the where do you find me stuff. At the bottom of the homepage is a semester schedule. Lists by the week the major topics of the week. It links to the modules, which is all the content for each week. And then it also links in the major projects for the semester. We have four, or in the German, how do you do it? How would they do it? With their thumb. I can't do it. I can't do my hand with using a thumb as a one. Something like that. 4 projects. Hold on a second. I clear my scratchy throat. Okay, sorry. 4 projects. We do not do exams. The big projects are where we bring together all of the things that you have learned in one place, and where you spend a significant amount of your time building those projects out, testing them before you submit them. So links to all of the things that you will need to submit, to communicate with me, everything is on this homepage. I'll just go down the list here. So announcements, I'm not a big user of announcements. It would I don't even anticipate at this point I would ever make another announcement other than this one about the live stream. But occasionally I might push a deadline back on something if I just feel like maybe a different timing is better. I will never make deadlines earlier than they are, but once in a rare instance, I might push a deadline to be later than I originally scheduled it. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot of activity on the announcements, but if one appears, it's probably significant, so you should go have a look. And I'm just going down the links on the left. I know you can't see all of the same links as I do, but you can see all these at the top. So the modules, which I will come back to, there we go. I know it looks a little bit different for you, but this is the entire content of the semester, either in here or linked from here. This week is unusual in that we have an orientation, just so I can kind of have some assurance that you understand my course policies and the way I've put the class together before you start into the actual sort of main content of the course, which is week 1, which is also this week. Beyond that, though, every week is structured the same in terms of the pages and the way I present the content. And all of that content, these green checks that you're seeing, by the way, means that they're all published, which means that you can see them all today. There is a prerequisite that you have completed Module 0 before you access the rest of the content, but other than that, it's all there. It's all ready to go for the whole semester. All right, Confer Zoom. So this is where you can book appointments with me. I'm going to go to this appointment booking tab, and you should see something like this on Confer Zoom. If it works. Here we go. So every Thursday I have booked, I have set aside from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. 15-minute blocks of time so that you can meet with me one-on-one individually if you want. So the way you would do that is you'd come to Confer Zoom, you would pick a time slot, you would book it, and then I get a notification that you have booked an office hour, a Zoom meeting with me, for that Thursday afternoon. Try to leave slots available for other students, but if you have something, we get to a point in the semester where you know you have something kind of bigger and more detailed and more complex perhaps, and you don't see a lot of office hour activity, then it would be okay to take a couple of slots back to back. You'll notice that I don't get a whole lot of activity on the Confer Zoom appointments. So those of you who do use them should find that you have lots of choices available on a typical week. All right, that's the Confer Zoom page. So Thursdays from 2 to 4 is by appointment on Zoom. Thursdays from 4 to 5, you just open up Zoom and I'm there, and you can drop in and come and go as you please. And if those times don't work and you still want to meet with me one-on-one, then please use Canvas inbox and we'll schedule a time. Okay, next link down is guides. You have a lot of them, I think. Not that many. I don't like this view guide by topic. Hold on, I'm going to clean that up. I just said it doesn't look nice. Get rid of that. Okay, better. So these guides are, I'll show you an example of one real quick, and then I'll come back to them when we talk about the first week's lab. But where I think that you might need assistance in performing the tasks that we do in this class that lead to like your labs and your projects, then I have put together guides with pictures alongside the instructions. So let's just look at an example how to create and rename a REPL. If you don't know what a REPL is, you will before we leave today. So, but here's what a typical guide looks like. It's got pictures, it's got a series of detailed steps, and then pictures that show you how to complete those steps. So where I thought it might be helpful to you working on your own to have some guidance in terms of, well, how do I even complete this task? I don't know where to start. I've put together these guides. So that's on the guides page, and there are several of them for your class. This is basically how to create a project in the system we use, how to reopen a project that you started and then left and want to come back to, how to add new content to a project, how to remove content from a project, and then some other details about how our lab and project work goes in this class. Okay, so that's guides. These guides are frequently linked inside of your lab assignment, so you will find links back to these guides in several other places in the course. The videos page should be empty. So what happens is at the end of a live stream, when I shut down the live stream, I leave a video of the live stream on Twitch, and Twitch will delete those after, I think, 90 days at this point. But eventually Twitch will delete the captured video from their website. So what I do is I make a copy of the video to YouTube, and I also send a copy of it to a captioning service that we contract with at Butte College. And once I've gotten all that set up, then I will add a description of the week's live stream or video topics, and then links to the caption version of the video and the YouTube version of the video. So every week at the end of this live stream, you will see me populate this table of videos with the week's content. Many of you may not use this. You might just go to my Twitch channel or go to my YouTube channel and just find stuff there. But if you want to work entirely in Canvas, then I'm trying to make it so that you can find the content from a variety of angles, as it were. So today, sometime, I will populate this first row with links and with the description of the content of today's videos. That's the videos page. The grades will be, of course, your grades. And then finally, the syllabus. How am I doing on time? I'm doing pretty good on time. And the syllabus is, since you've all taken a college class at this point, or you wouldn't be in this one, then you know what to expect from a syllabus. It's the basic course information, what the course is, what it's about, what we expect to accomplish in this course. Links to where I draw materials from. This isn't everywhere where I draw materials from, but this is like 90% of the materials come from these places. So to make it so that you didn't have to pay for a book or pay for an online book, I just use online resources, which means sometimes that I have to kind of cobble together bits and pieces to get what I want. But hopefully you like the idea of not having to pay for that stuff. So I lean heavily on C++.com, which has a lot of materials. And I lean heavily on geeksforgeeks.org because they also have a lot of articles that are relevant to us in this class. Not just C++ programming, by the way, but a lot of stuff related to the data structures and other algorithms that we deal with in this class. And then the other two pieces of course material are online accounts. They are free. One of them is Replit, and I will describe what that is when I get to the week one material. But that is where we'll do our programming work. This just guarantees that we don't have any, at least not typically, any technical issues for you when you go to do work for this class. Replit just houses everything. It makes it easy for you to share a link with me so I can just go look at your work. And occasionally during office hours, I will ask that people share their work with me, and then we can collaborate inside of their lab or project together. And then Piazza, which is a a programmer-friendly online discussion forum that I like. You'll get to see that today as well before I stop the stream. So Piazza is where we'll handle discussions, and you'll need an account in there. One of the nice things about Piazza is that you can be as anonymous to your classmates as you wish to be, while still allowing me to monitor your contributions. Okay, that's materials. So here we go with course requirements. This is the section that tells you where the points come from. So we have one quiz, which is this week. It's an orientation quiz, just again to try to have some assurance that you have read and understood my course policies and that you understand how the course is put together in Canvas. We will have 17 weeks of lab assignments in this class, but I will use the 15 best weeks of your lab assignments. So for example, if you were to miss 2 weeks of lab assignments, well, those would go in as zeros, and those would be your least good lab assignments, and they would be automatically dropped when your grade is computed. So you get a little bit of wiggle room there. We have 17 discussions, and I do the same thing with discussions. I drop your least good 2 discussions of the 17, keep the best 15, which can include zeros. If you miss a discussion, well, 2 of them you get dropped for free. There's 4 projects. None of those is dropped, and the points are bigger for projects, you'll see in a moment. So these are the big deal part of this class. In my opinion, at least, you need to exit a class like this with something of a resume of projects that you have built from the ground up. You'll want other projects that you've worked on someday when you get closer to looking for work in industry, if that is your goal. But this is at least kind of building up a portfolio of work. So these projects you work on by yourself, they are larger. It's expected that they will usually take many hours on your own over the course of 3 to 4 weeks for each project to complete them. Make sure you leave yourself plenty of time. You may find some projects faster and easier than others, but you should always assume when you begin a new cycle of a project that project is going to be challenging for you, and that you want to leave yourself plenty of time to deal with it, plenty of time to ask questions of me or questions of your classmates in Piazza, so that you don't get self-induced stress from the projects. They should be challenging, but they shouldn't be miserable. Okay, that's the points. There's no exams in this class. And other than the orientation quiz, I don't do quizzes either. I want you to learn about algorithms. I want you to design systems that use these algorithms. I want you to implement systems that use these algorithms. And I want you to test and then deploy systems that use these algorithms. That's the big thing. Okay, course policy. It's best if you keep yourself active. I try to use discussions to compel you to participate in the class and to get you and your classmates communicating with each other, to create as much of a community as we can in an online environment. Okay, so there's that. Late work. So you're going to get a question today on the orientation quiz that says, what is my policy about late work? And the answer is, generally, I do not accept late work, especially in a class like this, where from week to week, we are building on what has come before. So every week we're adding on to what we did the week before, and there is never a break where we just leave everything behind. So it's a terrible idea to get behind, and I don't want to have a course policy that makes you think it's okay to get behind, because you will just make your own life more difficult if you do. That said, I understand that there is a real world and that there is real life, and that some things happen that are outside of our control. So I do have room to hear from you if you are struggling, or if something happens where you're not going to make a deadline. I am willing to work with you to see what we can do about those situations, but hopefully those are rare to non-existent for all of you, because we'd rather just kind of focus on the things that we planned on doing and not have to deal with the things that we didn't plan on encountering. Okay, so that's late work. Generally not accepted. Just assume it's not accepted, and hopefully that keeps you kind of on track the whole semester. The way grades are calculated, so you can see the way the points distribute. The little orientation quiz down here. I've never checked to make sure you're still seeing what I see. You do. The labs. So notice there are 17 assigned, but I dropped the low 2 and keep 15. So if you have 17 100s, then I still drop the low 2. But if you have 1700s on labs, then you're having a great semester. So that's to be celebrated in and of itself. Same for the discussions. There's 17 of them. I dropped the lowest 2. There are 4 projects. I keep all 4. And notice that the points on them are a much bigger chunk than the other things, because those are kind of, to me, where the learning hits the road in this class. Doing okay on time? Okay, so that's it. There are a few links at the bottom of the syllabus to campus resources that I've been asked to share with you. So strategies for online success, some general campus resources, including things like how do I contact an academic counselor, and then finally the official course outline of record, which is kind of the legal document of this class that is submitted to the state of California. If you were to go look at it, you would discover that things like the description and the student learning outcomes are on the official course outline of record. So my syllabus is kind of a taking the course outline of record and then preparing to present the content in that course outline to you in the form of a class. All right, that's the syllabus. Let me see who's here. I'll say some hellos real quick. Odisha, Block, Casino, Commander, Ed, Ember Wolf, and Robo. So if I can't see your name, sorry about that, but hello to you if you've managed to join us. And as always, I appreciate it when people are here. If you can't be here, it's fine. If you have to come late, leave early. Or come leave. Those are all up to you. But I do enjoy having at least a few people around that can sort of double check me on what you're seeing on the screen and whether or not you can hear the audio, ask questions, things like that. But it's totally optional and video is made available. All right, so that's through the syllabus. Yeah, so let's do this. I'm going to walk through the orientation module content quickly. Then we'll take a short break, and then we will look at the first week's content. That's what I want to do. I am going to check myself here. Yeah. Okay, so I am back on the home page. There are 2 ways to get to a module for the week. I like coming down on my home page and just grabbing what I want for that week. But you can use the modules link and get to the things that you want. The other way that you can typically get stuff is that you'll have a coming up somewhere or a to-do list for the class that will have links to assignments that are coming due sooner. So this coming up section on my screen looks about right for you guys, the orientation quiz and the first lab and the first discussion. So we're going to deal with the week 0 module before we take a break. So let's go to week 0. So here's week 0. This one, the orientation module, is slightly different than the others. So just note that. But generally what you do is you go to the module, you get the point 0 document. This week has a lot of content in the pages. Normally I let the live stream / video and your readings deliver the content. But because it's course policy, I want to make sure that it's all sort of there and repeated to you in a variety of ways. In the form of this wall of text. Ouch. So Robo had a 2-hour live stream with no breaks. Yeah, that's rough. I need the break. And I know maybe some people, I worry that some people, if I take a break, are thinking, well, now I got to sit here for 5 minutes. But for some of us, it can be hard to sit here like this. And my voice gets tired and I run out of water or tea, although I put honey, and the honey tastes like fish to me for some reason. Maybe I got the wrong bottle. But it is helping my voice, whatever it is. Okay. So anyway, just to if you haven't done it before, how these modules in Canvas work. You go to a page. This one, I number mine so that you kind of hopefully know kind of where you're at in the sequence. It always starts with the 0.0 and then moves forward. Yeah, exactly, Magenta. This is an herbal tea with, I guess, just a honey I don't like, or fish sauce. Or I don't know if honey, I don't think honey can go bad. I think you can keep it for years. Okay, so sorry for the wall of text in week 0. I hope you'll take the time to read it, or at least, kind of scan it. I took the time to write it. That's a good point, Robo. I should focus on the water. I was hoping the tea was gonna help the scratchy voice problem, but I do also have a water. But you're right, I should drink it. I was drinking coffee earlier, and that definitely dried my throat out. Hey, check it out. I just drank water, and I think it sounds better. Okay, so anyway, I know these are walls of text, and this is miserable to read walls of text, and you may have to do it several times. But if you can make the time, I'd appreciate it. Throat coat. I'll try that, Magenta. Thank you for the tip. Yeah, I'll give that one a try. All right, so here's the 0.1 document. And in the orientation module, this is just kind of telling you about myself, about the class, how I put the class together, which I just kind of walked through anyway. Course navigation is talking about the links that you see on the left, and of course the Canvasy links on the far left. Next button. Keys to success. These are kind of cobbled together from ideas from people who have been teaching online for a while about what they see people do that helps them be successful. So again, these are just ideas. If you're new to online learning, which probably at this point you're not if you've been a Butte College student or a California student. But if you are, even if you're not new to online learning, there might be an idea or two in here that you hadn't thought of. But mostly it's, you just got to remember that you're less responsible to people because there's no one saying, hey, where have you been the last couple of weeks? Unless you're a regular on the live stream, and then I'll probably notice. But otherwise, kind of being out there on your own. Try to take advantage of the ways that you can connect. We have a discussion forum that's open to all of us where I hope we interact a lot. We have Canvas, we have the live stream, and we'll do our best. We've been through this, how the course works in terms of how you get points. So remember, the general rule is I don't take late work, but I'm also try to be reasonable about real life and real world happening around us. That's not unusual in Northern California to have things happen in life that interrupt our classwork. So just keep in touch with me. Do your best, but keep in touch with me. Don't let something that feels like it's out of your control lay waste to your semester. I'm here to help. That's wrong. So you're going to see me do a little bit of editing because this timing is not what I decided to do. 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. That's why I have it in my editor's view, so I can fix broken stuff like that. Okay. And then the orientation quiz. There's a handle, by the way. I don't know if your screen does it, but if you can't see everything that's going on, there's a handle on the lower right of this little box. So the quiz is 10 questions, 5 points a question. There's no time limit. There's no limit to the number of times you can redo it, because I'd like you to get all the basic information down and know that for sure. And also not to leave any points on the table, since you have the ability to redo the quiz and get 100%. And with that, I think it drives us into, week 1. So you can tell the week you're in because of the number in front of the dot. And you all know this, right? That these are dots. A period is a particular application of a dot. Anyway, I just like to say that, especially to non-programmer types. who would say, what about that period? That's not a period. That's not the end of a sentence. It's a dot. Anyway, so week 1, .0 is the first document. Where am I on time? This is a good time to take a 5-minute break. So that's the orientation module. That's a walkthrough of the syllabus, how you get points in here, how you keep in touch with me. If ever in doubt, go to the home page. And I think everything that you need to figure out how to hunt me down or hunt your content down is on this home page. All right, so it's 10:35. I'm going to take a 5-minute break because we're going to go a little bit longer because we're going to look at a little bit of code. So I'm going to put a be right back screen up, and then we'll start back up at 10:40. It's now 10:36. And then somewhere in there, I'll probably take a short break to put a marker in the video that says spoilers ahead. So you'll see another like 1 or 2 minute break in the second half. So 5-minute break. I'm going to stretch my legs. I hope you have time to do the same, or get water, or I got to try this throat coat stuff to see if that helps. Okay, so 10:40. Be right back at 10:40. Okay, so hopefully everyone had a chance to stretch legs a little bit and also not have to look at or listen to me for a few minutes. So we're going to look at the week 1 module, and I'll show you then the Piazza discussion forum online, the Replit tool that we use for submitting lab and project work in this class. You don't have to work in Replit if you don't want to, but I do ask that you submit through Replit, so eventually you're going to be in there anyway. When I'm doing work for this class, like working up solutions and stuff, I just work in Replit because it removes an extra step for me. But if I were, just kind of exploring an idea in C++ and I wanted to work outside of Replit, then I'd probably do that as well. I am a VS Code convert. I sort of am not a fan of anything Microsoft, but I started using VS Code for mobile development work, and I decided I liked it. So now I'm kind of moving over all of my other programming work into it that's not course related. Okay, so this week we have the orientation module, which once that's complete opens up the rest of the content for the class, which would include week 1, which is also in this week's work. So I'm going to go step through the week 1 module. And then when the moments arrive that we can go do a little bit of work and kind of show you a workflow, at least the one that I would use, we'll do that. So here's the week 1 module. Notice prerequisite week 0 orientation. I'll just go to the .0 document. So goals for the week. So this doesn't do anything other than to tell you what to expect in the upcoming, in the rest of the module. So what are we hoping to achieve or learn this week, or learn? Hopefully you will have a Piazza account by the end of the week, and you need that to contribute to the class discussion. You will need a Replit account for the purposes of at least submitting your lab, but I recommend, I would just do all my work inside of Replit if it were me. Those are both free, but you will need to sign up for them. And then in terms of our C++ programming work, we will use the Replit, the website, to develop our first lab. And then in our first lab, I'm just having you do some of the basics that we explore when we encounter a new programming language. So again, some of you are coming maybe from a C++ background, and this will just be a warm-up for you. And if you're coming from a non-C++ background, then sort of think of this as a quick getting up to speed in C++. It's the same thing that you would do if someone asked you to work in any new language, particularly if it were C-like. You'd want to know what the data types are. You'd want to know how to do basic input and output. You'd want to know how to perform the basic arithmetic, and then you'd kind of build up from there. So that's what we're going for in this lab, is to get you either warmed up on or quickly up to speed on those basic aspects of C++ programming. Okay, I'll click the next button. It looks like a lot of reading. Oh no, not for your class, it doesn't matter. I was about to say I write questions from this, but I decided not to do that because I want you guys thinking about algorithms and implementing algorithms and testing algorithms. So you don't have any quizzing component or exam component. So the readings are here to give you places to go if you're not sure how to do a thing. I recommend you at least have a peek at them and see if they speak to anything that you don't remember or don't know or need a refresher on. At least have a look and see what's going on in there, and you may find something that's helpful. And if you don't, well, it won't take that long to get through all of them. So notice I've drawn on a variety of Geeks for Geeks articles, doing a hello world, the data types, how to declare and use variables, and then also a couple from c++.com as well. This lecture part at the bottom, before today is over, well, after the live stream. So after the live stream, I move a video over to YouTube. I send a video for captioning. I update the videos page with links to YouTube and the caption video. And then I also embed the caption video here in the lecture screen. And this is just to make, to try to make it so that you don't have to go looking far for course material, including the lectures. So you can find it on my Twitch channel, you can find it on the YouTube channel, you can find it on the videos page, and you can also find it embedded in the lecture document, the .1 document, every week of the semester. So this will be replaced by an embedded video later today. Okay, I'm going on to the .2 document, at least I want to, Canvas. Or not. There we go. Okay, so here's the lab, and it looks like a lot. But a lot of it, at least earlier in the semester, is just trying to remind you that help is here if you need it while you're working alone. So these are instructions, but like for the lab itself, but then linked here are instructions for specific tasks within the lab. So I'm about to go do a setup for the programming before I sort of walk through the rest of the modules documents. So the first task would be to go to Replit and create an account, create a new REPL and name it Lab 1. I'm going to do that and show you. I can play around with the settings if I want, and notice that there's links to guide page for these. So these instructions links go back to this guides page that have the detailed instructions with the pictures in them. I've also got a guide for how do you do step 4, which is once I go out to the course repository and get this code, how do I get it into my REPL, which we'll also do today. And then I'll update the documentation. I will read the comments in the source file and follow those as instructions to complete the lab. I will run the code inside of the REPL to make sure that it works as required. And then if you keep going down the lab write-up, it will tell you sort of this is the gut check part. So what needs to happen before you submit it? You need to make sure it's compiling and running. You need to make sure you've done the documentation. You need to make sure that you've made everything neat, your source code and the program's output. And then finally, the big part of the points is making sure you've implemented everything that you're asked to implement. And then finally, to submit the lab, you copy and paste the URL of your REPL into Canvas. And there's instructions on the guides page for doing that step as well. So I'm going to do a lot of this. I'm not going to do all the programming, but I'll do a little bit of spoilery stuff just because I think some people might feel more confident about it if they've seen someone do at least part of it. All right, so let's go do some of these tasks. Let me make sure you're still seeing what I see. Okay, so I'm going to kind of do this from memory. So I'm going to go to Replit. I'm going to create a C++ REPL. I'm going to experiment with the settings, and then I'm going to come back here and deal with the code part. So let's go to Replit. So here is Replit over on this tab. This used to not have quite as much junk on the screen, but whatever. Here's Replit. Here's the me. Once you've started to create REPLs, you'll find a list of them here on the REPLs tab. I don't use any of the links really for myself other than home and my REPLs. I'm going to tell you real quick what a REPL is, by the way. A REPL really has nothing to do with what we're going to use this tool for. But the initialism, no, this is an acronym. By the way, when you see a set of initials like NASA, if you can pronounce them like a word, that's an acronym. So REPL is an acronym because you can pronounce it. If you see a series of letters like NCAA that's not pronounceable as a word, that's an initialism. Someone taught me that, and I just like it. I like knowing that, so I thought I'd share that with you. So REPL is an acronym. So the acronym REPL stands for Read, Evaluate, Print Loop. And it has nothing to do with C++. There are languages, if you've used Python as an example, there is a system, a REPL system for that. Some languages come with little interactive tools where you can type in a command or an instruction in that language and press enter. So it will read your instruction, it will evaluate it, and it will print the result. And then the loop part is it will be ready to repeat the whole process. That's what a read, evaluate, print loop is. It has nothing to do with what we're doing with it. It just happens to be the name that they chose for this website, repl.it. But they do call projects REPLs in here. So you'll hear me say that pretty often. Anyway, so this is REPL. REPL, it is a place where we can create and work on and share projects. You will submit projects and labs simply by taking a URL and pasting them into the assignment inside a Canvas. Okay, so let's create one. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to create a REPL in here. There's a button up here on the left. There is a button up here on the right. There is a button up here in the middle, and they all do the same thing. They all create REPLs. So I found my eye drawn to this one over here. So I'm going to click it. And then the thing to be careful of is we're going to do C++ projects every time in this class, every last time. So choose C++. If you forget to choose C++, then you will either have a REPL that you will want to delete, or you'll have a REPL that is not relevant to this class, but you can go play with it if you want to. They support lots of languages. We want C++. So I'm going to click on the C++ template. This website will give your projects funky default names. This one has named my project Unfortunate Dark Cyan Hash Function. So what you would typically do is you would rename it for the thing that you want, like Lab 1. But I'm going to not do that so that I can show you how to fix that later if you forget. You probably will not have the choice to go private. The reason why I have the choice to go private is that I pay them money. And I pay them money because I appreciate that they offer this tool. But you guys will, in all likelihood, be using the free version, which means your REPLs will be public. Okay, so I should type lab 1 in this title field, but I'm going to leave it as Unfortunate Dark Cyan Hash Function so that I can show you how to fix that. So create the REPL. It's a C++ REPL. It has a name. I'm going to create it, and the act of creating it will open it up. And because it's C++, they have actually given me a little hello world template. You can run it. And then if you look in the screen at the bottom, which can be moved around, you'll see the output from the program, hello world. You can also, by the way, run it manually down here. So I typed /main without clicking the run button. Okay, so there's, I've created the REPL. I don't like the name, so I'm going to go fix that. I'm going to click up here. Where is that? I think I just click in the name. Oh yeah, okay. So I'm going to click. So the name field tells me what it currently is, but I'm going to replace it with lab 1. I'm going to press enter. Oh, it won't let me use lab 1. What? Why don't I? How do I have a lab 1 REPL? Okay, well I'll call it lab 1 CSCI 21. How about that? You probably won't have this problem. I've got a lot of REPLs. Okay. Anyway, you can rename it. I'm not sure. I'm not happy that it didn't let me use lab 1, but whatever. The important thing is that I know where it is so that I can come back to it. I know which one to share with the instructor in Canvas when I'm done with the assignment. Okay, and then the playing around with the settings step. So over here on the left, you can click on all of these and see kind of what they mean. So the second one says version control. I'm not going to do any of this here. You can, of course, you're free if you want to do that. So that's what that screen does. And I can stretch this out so I can see more. Secrets, I don't need any secrets. The debugger I'm not going to use, but the next one's a debugger. The data store I'm not going to use, but anyway, that's what all those are. This last one though, settings, you can play around with. So if you don't like this setup, you can change it. So the layout, for example, you can change it to be side by side, which puts the console over on the side. I think I switched these around just based on my current needs. You can change the font size in here. The indent type, I don't use tabs. No one uses tabs anymore, so you're likely to leave it as spaces. 2 is pretty common. If you like a little bit more, you could change that. I'm not going to do anything to key bindings. Wrapping, I'm going to leave that. But anyway, you can play around with all this stuff just to see if there's something different that you would or wouldn't like about it. So anyway, that's the settings. You can play around a little bit with those if you want. You can make this whole left bar go away just, I think, by, well, actually, I want the files back, and then I'm going to squeeze it. I'm noticing it's taking a moment for the files to come back, but I'm not worried about it. Worst comes to worst, refresh the page. Worst comes to worst go back to your home. And then if things are really seem borked, close the tab and open a new one on Replit and see if you can get back into it that way. And then if, 4 times worse, close the whole browser and reopen it and see if that doesn't help your situation. Right now, the files aren't coming back, so I'm going to hit refresh and see if that gets me my files back. It did. Okay, so that time it worked. All right, so I'm set up for the lab. I'm not going to do, so I just did the first 3 steps of the lab, which is I went and created, I had an account, I created a project, a REPL, I played around with the settings, and now I'm waiting for step 4, which I'm going to put a spoilers notice in the stream here in a moment after we look through the rest of the module. So we're coming back to this in just a moment to look at the code a little bit. All right, so let's see what else is out there for us in this module. So the .3 document for week 1 is Piazza. You'll need, it's a free account. I like Piazza because you can be as anonymous as you would like to be with your classmates. So you can make posts in there, you can answer questions in there, you can ask questions in there, and you can be anonymous or nicknamed for your classmates, and I still know who that is underneath. So I like that because some people feel a little bit more comfortable that way. I also like it because it's very programmer friendly. You can put code snippets and have them highlighted and stuff, things that Canvas discussions will not let you do. But let me show you how it works before we leave this behind. So your task is to, after creating your Piazza account, is to go to the Piazza page for this class and then use the week 1 filter, find a specific discussion, and add to it. You can also, if you want to, respond to classmates if you want to. And I know this tell us about yourself discussion is what everybody does, but this is a different class. So we'd all like to know a little bit about the people who we're sharing this experience with. So I do it this way. And I like the feeling that the rest of you are out there and I can see you out there, and that I know kind of where you're coming from and what you're thinking about what we're doing in the class. I find that reassuring to know that our community of learners is together and that we know we're out there. So let's go look at how this works in Piazza. So I've got the I've got it pulled up here. And on the left is a whole bunch of stuff. So that's a little intimidating. But what you do is you find the filters, which is up here in this little bar at the top. So here's week 1. And if I click week 1, I get a lot less stuff. So if I click week 1, now I have a manageable amount of discussions to look through to find what I want. Here's the tell us a little bit about yourself discussion. I will click on that. I, as the instructor, have already posted a welcome message in here. So your task for the week is to go down here below mine and compose a new follow-up. So you'll click in compose a new follow-up. You will type your greeting to people. You will submit it so that it gets saved. I'm going to cancel, and then you will have added to the discussion. If you want to also add replies to your classmates, you are encouraged to do that, just to know like, hey, how you doing? I'm glad to see you, that kind of stuff. If you want to add a question or a comment or just a thought off to the side, you can always make a new post for yourself. You can, well, let me just show you. So when you go make a new post, you can add filters to it if you want to. I've got this set of sort of open forum filters, labs, projects, and others down here. If you forget to apply a filter, that's fine. We'll find it or we'll fix it later. But you can make your own posts. You can ask questions. You are encouraged to answer questions. Even if you don't know if you're right, the effort of trying to help a classmate is as important as anything. And the rest of us can come together and sort of get at specifically the right answer as a group. So don't put wrong answers that you know are wrong in on purpose. But if you're not sure, you can just say, I'm not sure, but I think it might be this. That is a perfectly good contribution, and I encourage those. So I'm going to cancel this, but that's how you would do your own posts. You do have access to the filters if you want. If you forget to add a filter, it will still show up, and we will hunt it down, and we will get it in the place that you'd like it to be. So there you go. There is Piazza. It is 11:02. So let me finish walking through the module. So that's the discussion. The next page of the module is the reminders. This is just before you call the module done, have you done these things? The lab for week 1, the discussion for week 1, and then the time to start the first project is soon. So I recommend you at least go look at it sooner than later, and you may find that you know how to do all of it. You may find that you know how to do none of it, but at least you know what to expect, and then you can keep it in mind as we do our work over the next few weeks. So I'm going to go back. Come on, Canvas. Twice. I was eating up all my break time. I was going to do a 2-minute break here. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to take a 2-minute break from 11:03. Yeah, I guess Canvas is, yeah, Amber, I think Canvas is probably just, I mean, obviously it's just getting hammered. But you'd think that the scalability problem they would have solved by now, but go figure. They only have the entire state of California contracting with them. I guess that wasn't enough incentive to make good software. Anyway. All right, so it is now 11:04. So the break's going to be like till 11:00. Let's say 11:07. I'll take like 3 minutes real quick. And then I'm going to come start on steps 4 through 7. So a short break. It's 11:04. It'll be 11:07, and I'll start back up and at least give you some tips inside the code itself. So spoilers coming after the break, which is why the screen is going to be a little bit different, so that people who don't like spoilers can either drop off or mute me now, and then know that this last part is where those spoilers will be found. Okay, so short break. And we'll do, I'm not going to do spoilers for the entire lab, but hopefully enough to get you going a little bit. And then you can kind of see the process. So not everyone wants or needs this part, but I'm not going to spoil the entire lab, but I am going to kind of show you, now that we've set up the Replit project, what do we do with the rest of the steps in the lab? So we are on step 4. And it says replace the code in main with the code in this file, which is going to be pretty typical that this is how the labs work. The projects will usually be you starting from scratch yourself, even though you'll see you get a lot of the ideas from the live stream or the videos. But there's a set of instructions also available on the guides page if you have doubts about how to do this part. So I'm going to do it from memory largely. So actually what I'm going to go do is I'm going to click this link, which takes me to a GitHub repository. And if you're a GitHub user, which most of you probably aren't, but if you are, you of course are free. It's a public repository to grab all of the materials at once if you want to and mess around with them. But the individual labs will direct you to the sort of starter code often that they use. So here's the code itself. You can, if you want to, but it would make your life miserable, try to highlight it from here. I find it's way easier to click on the raw button. And there's a reason why I have you do it this way, but it's mostly because I want you to see that GitHub is underneath it. Anyway, so now you just have the raw text of the code, and you can either highlight it manually or use the control button and press A, control A to select all, control C to copy, or you can use the mouse for those things. So now I've copied it. I'm going to go to my REPL and I'm going to go into main.cpp. It's already open. I'm going to delete all this stuff, which they get this little handy, are you sure you meant to delete everything? I am sure. I meant to delete everything, and then control V, or use the mouse, control V to paste, and now I've got the whole lab in here. In theory, no, it's not going to run, is it? It'll have errors. Yeah, that's true because of these lines of code right here. It'll have errors. Okay, so one of the steps says update the documentation. So I know this is irritating. I'll just call it lab 1. But I want you in the habit of documenting your presence in source code. This is not complicated documentation, but I just want it to be your habit that if it's your code that you are working on, your name needs to be in there. And the date, either that you created it or that you last worked on it, or both. But there should be a date. Today's the 22nd of August, 2022, and I am the programmer. So this is kind of like a copyright statement, but you just need to be in the habit, which is why there's a little bit of points attached to this always. And the instructions will always say in there, you have to do this or a few points come off. So just get in the habit, be in the habit. It's your code at this point. So document that fact. Okay, so I'm going to comment these things out, and I will give you a couple of sort of shortcuts as I go. So you can manually comment these things out, but you can also highlight either a line or you can press, okay, let me just do it all the different varieties. So hopefully you can see, let me make sure you can see. All right, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but my cursor is on line 59. It's just sitting here at the end. If I do control /, it'll comment out the line my cursor's on. And if I do control / again, it will uncomment the line. So that's super, super handy. You can also highlight the line and control / to comment, uncomment. You can also highlight multiple lines and control /. to comment, uncomment. I'm going to comment those out. And then just talk really quickly about a stylistic thing. So sorry, I scrolled off those real quick. I commented out lines 57, 58, and 59 because I know that those are about to cause me a problem. So I got rid of them to avoid the problem. So let me just talk a little bit about my style. So this include here gives us access to cout, which is the standard output, which is how you print to the screen. This library IOStream also includes cin, which is how we read keyboard input, which is the standard input. So this is how we can get the user to type stuff in and get that data inside of our program. This library also provides, among other things, the end of line marker, which is a line break. So that's what it includes. And I just want to sort of show you my style. So as it is right now, the way the code is written, to use cout, I actually have to say standard cout. And to use nline, I have to use standard nline. Now I will talk about the details of why this is so. I don't want to overwhelm you right now. Just showing you my style. So if I'm going to use this thing, everywhere where I'm going to use it, I need std : and then the thing. std : then the thing. It's going to work for all of it. So let's go ahead and set up, and then we'll do like a refactoring. So declare two integer variables. Again, this is my style. So I don't like lines with 10 variables on them, but I'm okay with a couple of variables. So I'm okay with this style. Hopefully I've got it right in C++. I don't work in C++ a lot outside of teaching, so I too need to get warmed up. So I've done a couple things here. I've declared as integers an x variable and a y variable. If you're coming out of Go, you'll notice the data type comes first, not last. And you'll also notice that there is no var word in here. Now, the other thing that I've done, besides create an integer variable x and an integer variable y, is I have initialized each of them. So I want x to start out with the value of 0, and I want y to start out at the value of 0. I could make them be other values if I want to, but 0 makes sense to me. What's important to note here, by the way, is that in C++, integer variables do not have any known value. It usually looks like some garbagey large negative or positive number. So when you're declaring integer variables, you need to give them an initial value just as a routine. In the Go language, when you declare a variable, they're automatically zeroed out for you, not in C++. So I have to manually zero out my integer variables. I'm going to prompt, and a prompt simply means print out a message asking for information. Oh, good question, Magenta. So to view code from the lecture, I will post it. Well, this code is kind of boring. No, I'll post what I do. So that's a good question. What I will do, and thank you, Magenta, for the idea, the question plus the idea. Unless it's like just crazy amounts of spoiler, I'll give you a heads up. But if it's little amounts of code that are meant to be for demonstration or example purposes, I will post those at the bottom of the lecture page. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. So make sure you march through the whole module, because I will add code samples to the bottom of the lecture when it makes sense to do that. And I will do that today. So thanks for asking. That's a good idea. Okay, so a prompt, when you're instructed to offer a prompt, that really means tell the user to do something like, hey, right? So enter a number. And notice how I'm following the comments here. So number 1, print a greeting. Got it. Welcome to lab 1. Number 2, declare a couple integers. Number 3, prompt for an integer. Number 4, read in an integer. I'll read in x. I'm going to have to spoiler up the whole first section so you can kind of see an approach. So let me go ahead and get, enter another number. Read in the second integer, so I'm going to use y this time and not x. And then number 7 says, display the result of adding the two numbers together. So let's do it super, super fancy. And I would just tell you, I'm kind of a stickler for this. If you have the information in your program, show it and make it look good. So let me show you what I mean by that. I have this x and y that the user typed in. So why not do something cool and actually print out the x that they printed and kind of show, hey, that 3 you typed in plus that 2 you typed in. And not just the letter x, but the actual value x, right? If you're new to C++, this just takes practice. So notice that kind of when I switch to something different, I add these. They're called Insertion Operator. Some people call them the alligators. Anyway, so I'm going to put the x, and then I'm going to switch to putting out space plus space, just a string. Then I'm going to switch to the y. Then I'm going to switch to the equals sign with spacing nicely around it. And then finally, I'll have it compute x plus y just right there in the output before putting a line break. So let's see if it works. That's actually several lines of code to stop on before I see if it works, but let's see if it works. So I say, welcome to lab 1. I have my 2 variables that should start at 0. I prompt for a number. I read in x. I prompt for another number. I read in y. And then I print the x you typed, the value of it, space plus space, the value of the y you typed, space equals space. And then I go ahead and have C++ compute the answer. So let's try it. All right, so if you see in the bottom, I'll stretch it. Enter a number, so I'm just going to do 3, followed by 2. And there's 3 plus C, they're 3 plus their 2, which is way better than just saying, oh, x plus y, which isn't cool at all. Like, haha, there's your numbers that you actually typed, and I am making something out of them. All right, so that's spoilers on the integer part. So what comes next? Number 8 is subtracting the 2. And since they're integers, they can be negative, so that's fine. Number 9 is multiplying the 2. Number 10 is dividing one by the other. You can just do x divided by y. Note that there is the possibility of dividing by 0. So when you're running this program, since we're not testing for 0, just don't put in a 0. I won't put in a 0 when I run your lab. You don't put in a 0 when you run your lab, because we're not worried about that problem yet. That's next week. And then finally, modulo. So the modulo operation is there. If you don't know it, I'm going to leave that for you to go do research and figure out what it is that it does. I think we have a discussion topic coming up on modulo so that you can, as a group, kind of collaborate on how do we think is the best way to explain what this modulo does. Some of you probably know, but if you don't know, you can play with it. The lab this week isn't about figuring out what it does. It's about making it do what it does. Okay. And then we have another section, which is very similar, but floats. So we'll have float A, and I'm going to go ahead and a float B. Remember, I can't use x and y again because those are already integer variables I declared, so I'm going to use a and b instead. And floats are floating point numbers, so those are decimal numbers as you'd call them in a math class, even though that's not what a computer scientist would consider an accurate way of describing them. They're floating point numbers, but what mathematicians call decimals often. And then you do prompt for the first float, read in the first float, prompt for the second, read in the second. You'll want to put these things back eventually. But I'll tell you about that here in just a second. And then you will add your two floats, subtract your two floats, multiply your two floats, divide your two floats. You will not do modulo on the two floats because modulo doesn't work on floats. One of the things for you to puzzle over in private is why doesn't float work on, or modulo work on floats in C++? It doesn't, but try it out and see what happens. Okay, so I know I'm flicking around a lot. So you do a whole bunch of math with integers, you do a whole bunch of math with floats. That gets us exposed to input, output, arithmetic in C++, and then a couple of data types, integers and floating point numbers, all in this program. Okay, so the last thing. This junk. The standard colon stuff all over the place. Some people like this. So I'm not saying it's wrong or right. Some people like having to do this. And if you were to go down that path, then you would have to update these guys, control /. You would need to update these ones to also have the standard colon in front of cout. Or you'd get an error. So I don't like that style because I think it's cluttery to look at, and I like less clutter than more clutter. So here's the way I resolve that problem. I can go up here and I can add in this line. In fact, let's do that last. Let's add in. No. Let's just do it that way. That's how I decided to expose you to it. If I say using namespace standard, then I get all of the std : stuff for free, which means it can come off. And that is my preferred style, at least when I'm teaching, because it's less cluttery to look at. Now I'm doing this kind of the manual way just so I don't scroll as fast as I might. So notice everywhere where I had this std : I can now take it off. And it should run. Okay, so that's my preference. You don't have to do it that way. I will show you another option in the near future. So if you like all the standard : stuff, you can take this out and then use standard : on all those things. Or if you're like me and you'd prefer to have a little bit less clutter to look at right now, then you can add this line using namespace standard. That's the std, which means that you get all of these things that used to have std : on them kind of for free. You don't have to type the std : on any of them anymore. So that's up to you. It's something that you might experiment with to decide what you think is the style you prefer. But this less cluttery style is the style I tend to use, especially when I'm teaching, because I don't want people to be distracted by the less important things. So Emberwolf asks, what if you have multiple libraries like this? It should be true that this std namespacing should not ever find itself colliding with anything else. So it should be true that this one specifically you're safe to go ahead and do this with, because other libraries will be careful about it. So hopefully that answers the question adequately for now. In terms of what a namespace is and how you create one for yourself, I'm going to do that probably in the next week or two as we sort of dig into the detail a little bit more. So it should be safe to add additional libraries and not cause what we refer to as a namespace collision when it comes to this STD standard namespace. Okay. So that code is going to appear at the bottom of the lecture screen. I'll add a code samples, and I'll try to remember to do that. But if you're in the live stream and you see something that you thought would be useful later, if you can drop me a reminder during the live stream, it'd be much appreciated. I will try to remember, but I might forget, or there might be times where I think maybe I should leave that one for them to do for themselves. But for this code sample, I'm going to go ahead and post it so you can kind of see how I went about addressing the requirements. Okay, it's 11:28. Thanks so much for being here. If you're able to be here, I very much appreciate it. If you weren't, I hope the video delivers for you everything that you need to get started and feel confident in the course. Every Monday at 10, from 10 to 11, I will be here, and I would love to see you when you can make it. You can, drop in when you can, leave when you have to. If you want to drop out for the spoilers section, you can always do that if you like, or however it is you'd like to do it. This is a fun class to do. You guys are all at the point where you've got good skills, and we can do really interesting sort of complex algorithms with the skills that you have now. So I hope that you find it's fun for you. It's challenging and rewarding, and it certainly will be fun for me. So, Ember Wolf has to see me again in CSCI 10. Well, hopefully that's okay for you. Hopefully you don't get tired of me. I won't get tired of you guys, but if I'm seeing you tomorrow, then I'll see you again tomorrow. If I'm seeing you next week, then I hope you have a good week in the meantime. Everything for my class is always due Sundays at midnight, everything. So you will see that when you look at the assignments, what the due dates are. But week 0 and week 1, all are due the coming Sunday, August 28th, before midnight. Week 2, the following Sunday before midnight, and so on. Okay, so have a good week. Take care, everybody, and I will hopefully see a lot of you next week.